just want to say thank you very much to every one of you that's tuned in to watch this video. But with that, I have to warn you, some of the things we're going to discuss today may be disturbing to some of our more sensitive viewers. So what we're going to discuss today is overheating of some poultry as well as butchering chickens. So if that's not your cup of tea, thanks for making it this far. If it is your cup of tea, let's roll the video. Well, good morning, folks. Welcome to another absolutely toasty warm, beautiful morning here on the farm. When I say toasty warm, I mean it, man, oh man. We knew we were coming into a heat wave and we thought we were ready. We thought we were ready. Let me tell you, there's not a Canadian alive that is ready for 28 degrees Celsius at 6 o'clock in the morning. It's just not natural. But so anyways, yeah, some bad news that came out of that. Unfortunately, yesterday we did lose 2 of our meat chickens who were almost full grown, actually, just due to heat stress. We've got the chicken tractors propped up, so they're just acting as shade right now, not even confinement. We've got the nets wide open. We've got sprinklers set up, and we're doing everything possible to provide a place to get out of the heat and to cool off for all of our animals. Even the donkeys in the back, we've got sprinklers set up for them. We've got sprinklers set up for the pigs. And I tell you, if it weren't for our water well, we'd be screwed. We would be screwed because that thing is just keeping up like it's just magical. I tell you, no other water well. My brother and sister-in-law, they have one that does 3/4 of a gallon a minute, and they have to run everything through a cistern. And I think we're like 25 gallons a minute. And the water table sets out at 20 feet or 25 feet. So it's almost an artesian well, actually. It's a really, really good well. But it's been running steady for like 4 days. I don't think the water's actually been shut off. It's just been going like crazy. Now, that's the big thing with supplying water, especially to the birds, right? You can give them water, but it's sitting in the sun, and that water bucket heats up to, 25, 30 degrees. It's not a good time. They'll stay hydrated, but they won't cool off. So that's kind of why we're keeping water flowing all the time, so at least they can get a cool drink. The sheep are smart. They're hiding out in the shade in here, in behind the shop. Good for them. I got this sprinkler rigged up here, so if they want to come close to that, they can kind of get that cooling mist. Obviously they're not going to come right up in there and get soaking wet. Sheep are smarter than that. Sometimes they're not very smart, but they are smarter than that. The donkeys are hiding off in the shelter down there, catching a little bit of shade. I think they'd be smarter to spend the time up here. It's way cooler up here than it is down at that bottom of the hill. We're gonna run over and check on the pigs and see how they're making out. We did have a wallow set up for them yesterday, just with the sprinkler just running steady in there pretty much for half the day. Made it quite a mucky mess, but I'm sure that's like a little piggy paradise for them. So it looks like the piggies made out all right here last night. Just enjoyed a little bit of cool breakfast here. Usually we'd mix them up some warm water with some barley. Today we're just using cold water with the barley, and then they got their muddy puddle here they can splash in if they need to. All right, so here we are, 6 o'clock at night. It is now 43.8 degrees Celsius according to the weather station in the house. That is phenomenal, unbelievable high temps. We've rigged up the camper because, yeah, build a $500,000 house, too cheap to put a $4,000 air conditioner in it. But we'll spend 20 grand on a camper with an air conditioner in it. So we're moving out of the house and into the camper tonight. It is what it is. The other thing, the chickens, the meat chickens, yeah, I'm still feeling pretty bad for them. They got water sprinklers going everywhere. They got cool, fresh running water. Their chicken tractors are propped up, so they're providing shade. They're not providing confinement. They can move around and find a spot to hide. We don't give frozen treats to chickens, and there's a reason for that. The reason for that is because it can cause thermal shock. So basically, you're really, really hot, then you cool them down really, really quickly. Their metabolism has to warm up in order to melt that ice or whatever it is that they're consuming, and then they get hot again, and because they can't, it's not sustainable, right? So it's something you really want to be. It's good on a warm day, but on a day like this where it's just excessively hot, there's really only one way to keep a chicken cool. Sad to say, that's send it to the freezer. So that's what Carmen and I are going to do later on this evening here, is we're going to pick the 10 fattest ones we have that are struggling the most with the heat. And because the biggest ones are probably in that 8.5 to 9 pound range, and we're going to process a few of them. just because you know they really only want to have one bad day on the farm, and if today's already a bad day, well, we might as well just end it there. Sad to say, but it is what it is. So it looks like we're all set up here to cool off a few birds and put them in the freezer. So we got our mobile chicken coop, we got our kill cone, scalding station, and the chicken plucker. The ladies are inside ready to cut everything up as needs be. We got 9 birds in the mobile coop. I'd show you the rest of this, but even during a heat wave, you can still find some snowflakes. So you'll just have to wish us luck in the next part here. So for those that maybe do have a professional curiosity about this, this is the kill cone, or the comforter cone. This acts as basically gives them a nice big hug, takes all the stress out of it. And what you're looking to do when you make your cut is right below the jawbone here. A sharp knife is going to be your best friend, the chicken's best friend. One good cut, and they'll just bleed out in like 1/10 of a second. The chicken will be dead, won't feel any pain, and by far is the easiest and most humane way to do this. So after you've dispatched your bird, you're next on to scalding. And so we have a scalding pot here, just a standard turkey fryer. And then we want our water to be 70 degrees, thereabouts. And the reason for that, we don't want it to be too hot because you'll scald the bird literally. So we are a little bit on the hot side. We're about 75 there. And what we're looking for is, like I said, you don't want to burn the bird. You also want it to be hot enough that will actually separate the feathers. So we added a little bit of a product called Feather Off to this water, but you could easily add, I think about a half a tablespoon of dish soap, and it works pretty well exactly the same. So a lot of folks might actually be hesitant to butcher their own meat chickens because they think that the process is painful and traumatic to the bird. Well, in fact, you know, because a lot of it comes down to the movement after the fact, after the kill has occurred. And that is a perfectly normal, natural function in a chicken. That's where the saying, run around like a chicken with your head cut off, comes from. There's a lot of motor electric function that happens in a chicken after it's been dispatched, and it's not something to be overly concerned with. What you need to be concerned with really is just making a clean kill. And other than that, it's really simple. Now for the chickens that we still have here, you know, we still have quite a few. I think we 60 birds. We still have 61 birds we have left. We have set up a cooling station over here, so we've got twin tubs where they can go dip their beak, dip their feet, and there's a nozzle there with a mist function. So we don't want the birds to go over there and get soaking wet, but you know, if they want to get a little bit of mist and cool off, that's just fine. Now, because the birds don't sweat, right? So they either pant or they'll lift their wings, and you'll see that they'll put their arms way out there and try and let some air flow through there. So if their feathers are soaking wet, doesn't really work to cool them off very well, right? So just a little bit of mist. It gets, of course, gets on the grass all around that whole area, right? So they have a whole big cool area where they can fart around in, and makes, you know, today is so much better. Even though today was probably the hottest day on record here, the birds actually, their temperament, their comfort level was much higher than it was yesterday. So now there's a lot of byproduct when you do this, right? There's all the feathers, there's the guts, the heads, everything. What do you do with all of that? So works really well. The feathers, we can compost the feathers, works quite effectively. And the heads and all the guts and everything like that, we can cook up, and it makes great dog food. So there's no waste, absolutely no waste whatsoever with these birds. Whatever we don't use, we're able to find other useful ways to make sure nothing goes to waste here on the farm. Well, everybody's fed, tucked in, watered, and everything's cleaned up for the evening. So I think, well, usually I would go for a cup of tea, but I think it might be too darn hot for that. So might have to go fix up some chocolate milk. So I'll let you go for now. I hope you have a fantastic evening, and we'll see you tomorrow.